good to speak to you, Josh. How's everything? Where are
Yeah,
you?
I'm over in the UK.
In the UK.
So yeah, cold and dark here, but real pleasure to be able to spend my afternoon speaking to you because I thought this film was fantastic. And I've got to
Great.
bring up that scene, that confrontation between Calvin and Whitney outside the house where
Uh,
obviously your character recalls, being spat on when he came back from combat and just everything he's been through. And I'd love to know what that day was like for you on set because what a terrific scene.
yeah, it was a really interesting day because um, the night before was my first day showing up for rehearsal, and Stephen and I we rehearsed the scene, and initially Stephen was going to be grabbing me and slamming me around, but in the rehearsal he came to the realization that he thought it would be better if we switched that dynamic. Um, and so the next morning was my first day of shooting. And so starting with that scene, you know, um, was quite nervous because I didn't feel quite fully into myself. I didn't have enough, I didn't I knew the lines, but I didn't know what was going to come out and how it was gonna how it was gonna play. Um, and there were definite elements of having I was drinking and in the scene and what have you just before the scene started. Um, so it was definitely a challenge, but I was really happy the way it came out. Um, yeah, it was nice.
Amazing. And of course, from there, that bond and relationship with Calvin and Whitney really develops. I
Yeah.
love that scene where he's giving your character a haircut, just these little moments between the two
Yeah,
of you. So that must have been something quite, exciting to delve into as well, in contrast to that first scene you
yeah,
had.
yeah, absolutely. And just the how his character ultimately embraces me and um to the point it's like he's gonna hit the road and watch the house for him. It was just a lovely journey to work with Stephen on this film and to play this character. It was not his great arc, and I knew it's sort of my age group of the Vietnam folks, and just knowing people who went and didn't come back, or people came back but they were you know scarred. And then ultimately, no ticker tape parade. Speaking of you know being spat on, you know. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, fantastic. And when you play, obviously you talk about being part of that Vietnam generation, but when you're playing a character like this, do you draw a lot on your own life experiences and maybe the people you've had around you in your life, or is it really the script that you need to, point you in the right direction for a character like this one?
Well, it starts with the script, so the words were great, and then knowing so many folks who went to volunteer and what have you. I grew up in Detroit, so some folks that was a way out, you know, um, and so then seeing the scars from that, even to the point where I've got a friend from last year I was just with, who is you know so has cancer from Agent Orange. So there were so many, you know, it was such a rich time to dive into. And then just knowing, the peace marches, and you know, get out of now. The ending of the draft it was all. So I drew on all of that,
Yeah.
and then have the foundation of a great script. So that was the journey.
Yeah, so interesting. And obviously, as a filmmaker yourself, do you find it beneficial when one of your main co-stars, like Stephen, is also your director? As you said, you hashed that scene out the day before. Is that something that really benefits you as an actor, would you say?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's great to work with actors be directed by actors because they get it. They know how to sort of pull things out of you. But it was really interesting working with Steven in terms of his direction because he really kind of let go of that component when we're in the scenes. He was another actor in the scene and focusing on, you know, being there for me. And I was, of course, trying to be there for him. But he would call cut, and action and those things. But it's really interesting to see everybody kind of works slightly differently. The directors that star in their own movies. But this was great. I think Stephen will say he trusted the words. He just
Yeah.
let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know obviously at the moment the theatres are struggling. There's a lot of talk of mergers with studios. And as you see all of this happening, why would you say it's important to you to make sure you're still part of telling stories like this one, especially at a time when it seems, films are struggling so much to find an audience?
Yeah. Oh, it's super important
Yeah.
because it's not with so much of the every studio is trying to make a movie that's going to make $1 billion, and so the personal stories they're few and far between, Um, so I think it's incredibly important to storytelling, and storytelling that isn't the same as every other
Yeah.
war movie. The scars that you don't see, the scars that well, the, sc- the scars that we don't necessarily see in the movies. I mean, we're seeing people in battle and that, but it's as um, the PTSD, um, the battle scars that you bring home are, maybe more than the scars that you see on the battlefield. The emotional scars, yeah, yeah. So very important to make movies like this.
Yeah, well, I know I'm very glad we've got people like you making films like this, but a big franchise you were part of was Daredevil, of course, and they've brought that series back now. They've obviously introduced your character's niece, but
Yeah.
would you ever go back to that world, maybe for the odd flashback or two, do you think? Because I loved you as Ben Urich, such a great
Oh
character.
yeah, yeah. It was a really good character. I don't know if they. I would definitely go back to play a little bit with Vincent or someone. I had a great time doing that show. It was fun. Charlie, you know, we had some nice scenes together. I always remember him, us standing in the rain, freezing, and he was in his little Daredevil suit with I had a coat, and I was all layered up, and was opposite each other, and I see his body just start to shake, from the cold. I was like, oh man, but yeah, yeah, that was a fun show.
Oh, well, amazing. Well, fantastic. I cannot wait for people to see this film, Bondi, because I think it's a really special movie and such a phenomenal performance from yourself and everyone. So thank you so much for taking the time. It's been such a pleasure.
Thanks, Josh. Good talking to you.
Have a great day. Thank you so much again.